Ugh. Blindy.
Let me go to details and start that one up. Watch replay.
It basically just starts with Strom immediately putting the ball about 5 blocks into Skilfer's line. Literally turn 1.
You had the early touchdown the first half, right?
Yeah, Skilfer gets a giant block. The bear makes it through.
Oh yeah, I forgot I gave the bear the ball.
Yeah, the bear loses it, and the bear loses it from a turnover in turn 3, I believe. I'm just watching it right now. And then Victor, your catcher, manages to break away and scores it on your 5th turn.
You mean me, not Victor?
No, your ball catcher.
Your catcher.
Oh,
your catcher
Victor. Yeah.
Victor.
Yeah, your ball catcher. Sorry, Victor. Picks it up and you get the touchdown on roll 5. Basically, Skilfer's line of defense is too open.
Oh, definitely. He starts out pretty wide. Oh, that's kind of hard to watch. Looking at his opening setup, he is wide.
You got an extra team reroll, Strom. He threw the ball and lost it. He got 2 blocks from the touchdown in turn 6. And then he managed to get it back on turn 7. And then you pushed it back down the opposite way. And then halftime hit.
Oh, and the heat. The heat is the key of the game there.
Yeah, the heat really prevented it from being, I think, as bloody as it could have been.
Yeah, because the first half, Skilfer had like 3 people down.
I can't believe you start off with
it. And the entire time I was doing it, I was telling everyone, never give the ball to the big guy.
To the big guy.
The entire time, I was like, never give the ball to the big guy. I gave the ball to the big guy.
He's pretty much a Croxagore.
He is, in fact, a carbon copy of it. It is a Croxagore.
So you would think they're like the worst to get the ball. How the hell did that happen?
It was a touchback. He kicked it out of the field. I was getting a little greedy trying to get a touchdown on my bear to get some SPP, because it's hard to get SPP on big guys, but outside of injuries and getting lucky on MVPs. So I tried to just get a touchdown with him.
I'll tell you what, Skilfer can get the ball far in 1 or 2 turns, but he spreads himself way too thin, and he'll lose the ball in 2 turns.
Yeah,
and he'll lose the ball in 2 turns. He can get the ball about 12 blocks in 2 turns, but he loses it after he gets that far. Oh yeah, and then you, by round 10, you stole it from him and threw it halfway down the field, and it looks like he put it in the cage, but your cage won.
Oh, did you see my first touchdown? That beauty that the first touchdown was?
Yeah.
That cage.
I just went through the whole game.
That cage was solid. It was on point. And I was like, how the hell am I going to get out of this cage? Oh yeah, leap.
And then at the end of the game, you broke through his line and stole the ball again. And the last turn, you broke through the line again.
Yeah.
Where is it?
And we're preparing for a 3rd touchdown.
It was very eventful. It was just...
It was a very eventful game. It was just, it was the least bloody of the games that were played.
Yeah, even in Asylum and Nemo's match, that match was already getting bloody. Each time, it got bloody pretty quick.
That early death, that first one on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, losing that blitzer, that was I'm really sad that you guys had to basically cut it and do a concession. I was really hoping that Blitzer would stay dead for a while.
Which one?
The first game where you lost the Blitzer.
Oh yeah. It's oh god. Both games, like, we both had injuries that were like injuries and or deaths that were like really bad, but ultimately like there was just too much interference with just not being able to see what was going on, and that's how you break free. Okay, so yeah, it looks like this Owls versus Circus Circus game was.
That was a good breakthrough with skill for early here.
Which one? And skill
The
for
one where he
breakthrough?
not skill for like broke through your defense to knock your bear down who had the ball,
Oh,
and then played hacky sack with like 10 of his players before finally picking up the ball.
it wasn't really much of a defense. I'm gonna say that. It was like I ran the
Well, no,
bear, and I was like, I should probably stand
but-
someone next to him.
But he dodged like all those players to get around to get that extra block on the bear.
Yeah, I'll tell you what about Scofer. He can make dodge rolls.
Well, when your entire team is agility 4, it's not that hard.
But he can chain them all in like one movement. It's weird. Knuffles enjoys seeing his elves dodge.
You still had 3 people down on the heat stroke thing?
Yeah, there were a lot of people down on the heat stroke thing.
Well,
We
he
were-
only had 1 down
Yeah,
in the second half.
for the most part, we were pretty even on players.
No breakout yet. Oh, wow.
Now I'm just gonna quickly go through Catter and Galen's match, and then I'll be ready. I'm sure he had fun with that.
Who?
I'm sure Galen had fun with your skinks breaking through in round 2.
Galen went full tilt in that matchup.
Galen.
By the third round, he went full tilt.
Which is really unfortunate, because Galen was in a position to do a lot of stuff. He just didn't, because he
Yeah,
stopped playing the game.
and then because you stalled out that touchdown to literally your last turn.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, especially against Chaos.
Well, I was afraid he was going to, I had my skinks far enough away that he couldn't. That he couldn't really
So what are we-
damage them.
Sorry, what are we gonna put down for talking points for Circus versus Elves?
Never give the big guy the ball.
Environment.
Yeah,
So
The environment or the weather can work for both Strom's and my game. Because I had the heat stroke as well.
so we'll use the weather as a lead-in into your game. That'll be the last point of the.
Well, Catter's game is between mine.
Oh,
so yeah,
Okay,
we can always
that's
touch on it.
well, no, because I'm just looking at the list, and it has Catter's game played on the first, Cirque game played on the first, Toombiake's played on the first. So I was just gonna go, since they were clearly played first, I was just gonna go down the list.
Yeah, the order they were actually played was Strom and Skilfer, Galen and Catter, and then Schmoopy and Arkin.
Okay,
I
so
don't-
do you want to?
Galen could have won this match.
He could have.
Do you
I
want
just
to?
watched. I just went through the whole thing. Galen should have won that match if he played his cards right.
Do you want to keep it that way? The way that it was actually played, or the way it shows up on the list?
The way it was actually played.
All right. So who's the first game?
Strom. Yeah, no,
No, me.
no. Strom versus
Strom.
Oh.
Gopher.
Okay.
The
So
circus versus the high elves.
I think the strong talking points in my game are n- how effective positioning is, how important positioning is. Because both of our teams is all about positioning, and that's the only thing that we did in that game was position.
You
The
you
Heat,
guys both had good positioning and bad positioning. So
yeah.
okay. So here I have for talking points: big guy, positioning, and weather.
Yeah, that's about it.
Sound good? All right. And then we have Catter's game versus Galen. So what?
Yeah,
Because
You get
honestly,
on,
I don't want to kind
I would say
of pick on Galen on that.
I don't want to
Mention
say
him going to full tilt.
I don't want to
Uh,
say taking a game plan and sticking to the game plan.
well, picking the right game plan. Because Galen had a game plan, it was just the wrong game plan.
Well, no, because like
Galen's game plan, and it's really evident in the second half when he had most of his team down, he didn't bother picking his team up. He went to throw a one die block.
Okay.
And then, of
But-
course, that block didn't work, and then it was a turnover, and most of his team was still down.
that just seems to me like that's obviously like that's an issue more with just the basics of the game and a lack of caring.
Well, yeah,
Because I
but
don't think
that's
that's
but Galen's
I
game
don't
plan
think
at that point
that's-
was punch.
yeah, but that worked for like that was my at the end of last season. That was uh I realized that I couldn't go speed for speed with uh the
Gavin.
Gavin. And what happened? I literally punched and punched and punched and crawled back to a 2-2 tie.
Well, yeah, but
I picked the game plan and I stuck with it. That was the important thing. I stuck with the game plan and then capitalized when it worked.
Oh, that's sweet, dude.
Galen didn't. He didn't stick to a game plan. He also chose the wrong game plans at the wrong time.
And that's why I say pick a game plan and stick to it. Like
Yeah, and that's why I said pick the right game plan.
So let's
for
say
my game, I don't really know what to talk about because
It was just
Rewatching it?
bloody.
rewatching it, literally the entire game was just
punch.
each of us defended. We just defended the ball, and then every player got into a brawl, and then Schmoop would steal the ball and run away. Like that was all the game was. All the game was literally
a
just
talking
giant
point on
brawl.
my game. A talking point on my
Wait.
game would have been also the ball handling because I had a lot. We both sat there and fumbled that ball left and right, which shortened
Yeah.
the game quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna go preparing for opponent and sticking to game plan. How about that?
That works.
Yeah, and just the amount of fumbling that happened. No one in either of those teams could pick up the ball.
Sticking
Oh man, this is so great to watch.
to game plan.
I'm just watching my Tomb Guardian kill Schmoop's guy on a loop.
Also, marking players. That was the other thing that we talked about before you guys hopped in.
It's a
Oh,
positioning
for-
thing.
For
Yeah.
who?
Hold on.
For
Positioning.
Catter and Galen's game. Galen had just had bad positioning. Didn't mark players, didn't mark sources that should have been marked.
Okay. So I have preparing for opponent and sticking to game plan, ball handling and marking players for Kata versus. So big guy, it's Kizik Circus, right?
Kislev.
Kislev.
Oh, Kislev's. That was High Elves, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Catter was Chaos versus
Lizardman.
Lizardman. Okay, Dorn.
I would say so. I went back and looked at it. The weather only actually affected 2 players the entire match. They were both mine, but I would say if we can talk about brawls and like ball handling and positioning in brawls, because
Okay.
75% of my game was literally just me and Schmoop and a giant, just like
It was a
our
big
players just
muck.
literally. Yeah, it was
So
just
you
a
guys were
giant.
brawling for the ball.
Yeah,
I'll say protecting the ball.
because we were both very aggressive in that aspect, and honestly, I feel like the only weakness, like I feel like the only thing that gave Shmoopy a leg up on my team was the movement allowance. If I had a
Okay,
similar
so-
movement allowance, it would have been a tie.
So protecting the ball and what? Like
Brawling mostly. Just that was
brawling.
Yeah,
basically just brawling. Like that game was
just
one
brawl,
big
like
brawl.
anything-
It was 16 turns
anything
of
about
punching.
brawls. It was. But just
That's what.
anything
That's when you.
anything
that's-
about brawls is something we can talk about. It's like positioning during brawls, like how to get like extra strength
Yes.
from like people around you. And just like the positioning, how to mark people in brawls, and just like how
So
to
that was
play it
humans
safer.
versus
Because
humans versus
humans versus Kemri.
Kemri.
Because he injured half my team and he killed someone, and everyone but one regenerated. So I only have one injury, but he did a number. The whole game was just a brawl. I killed his blitzer. He
Fucked
injured
up your
one of my
team.
skeletons. He did. He
Alright,
really did.
Do we have a death count for the week?
3.
Deaths.
3 confirmed deaths and 2 which were saved.
2 apothecary.
Do we have a name? Do we want names on that or?
I want someone to start saying names so that someone else can drop and say, people who die in Blood Bowl are bitches.
Well, can we like talk about like the people who like killed, so we could be like,
Is there an easy way of finding out the people that got kills?
That's what I'm
Yeah.
looking up right now. I mean, you can look at the dice rolls.
in the Hall of Fame? Aren't kills in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, but see with Skilfer, Skilfer has the 1 casualty, right? On his slip and fall. He's got 100% one. I'm guessing that's
You actually can see who
Yeah,
killed.
serial kills.
No. So you go to match result dice rolls, and you go through, and there is a casualty roll that is separate from injury rolls.
How do you get to match
And-
result?
You go to the schedule. You highlight the game, hit triangle, and you go into the match result screen,
Okay, dice rolls.
and you can go dice rolls. Like right now,
You
I'm
can
in.
also, for the sake of this
Right now,
week,
I
you
am
can also
in-
look at serial kills.
you can't because Skilfer isn't listed on that because he wasn't serial killed.
Oh, he killed himself.
Yes.
So,
That's-
there were 2 deaths in your game, Chatter.
They're technically yes.
Oh, one was saved by Apothecary.
Yes.
Who was saved by Apothecary?
Wait,
the
it
one that was
doesn't-
saved by would be Briss Mulder was saved by apothecary.
It doesn't say who killed who. It just shows the dice rolls.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you go over and you hit player, and then under the player you'll see the casualty, success and failure.
Yeah, but it doesn't say what casualty it was.
Wait,
Casualty is any injury roll whatsoever.
but it's separate from injury rules.
Yeah. If you go to Bastards of Uruk and go to
No, but you don't understand. Like, an injury is breaking armor. An injury is a stun, or a KO. A casualty is any badly injured, niggling injury, or death.
A casualty is a red
Oh.
mark or a death. An injury is stuns, KOs, red marks, and death.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
I'm gonna go
Then we
back
won't use
and
names. You know what? Then we won't use names. Like it's not.
Well,
I can find it. Finding the names is not hard to do.
it, again, all we have to do is find the player who died on Skillfer's team.
I think I
No.
found that. That's
So,
what I'm going
I want it because I want it to be a big joke that the people who died are their names aren't worthy of saying.
Oh.
So we're doing all this work for a joke, is what
So-
you're saying.
No, well,
God.
I mean, if you want to get the names of the people who killed them, that's fine.
Yeah, there's two right here. It's Akhenaten and the Great Tagu.
Tigu.
Whatever. I've been staring at these two names ever since I brought it up.
Yeah, but I went into the leaderboard, and in serial killers, the top one in the Hall of Fame, the top one. Wait, hold on. Inaugural season, top 3. No, top 20. Serial kills. Yeah, there's only 2 people with kills. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the
yeah,
third death was skill for killing his own player.
yeah. I can't even say his name, but Sayavel Ilakrama. It looks like is what it says.
Akhenaten,
Ok-
and the Great Tegu.
Yeah, I know my dude killed
Akhenaten?
Akhenaten. I don't know.
I think it's Akhenaten.
Akhenaten. I don't know. Let's look up Google. Okay, Google. Let's figure this out. And I know I killed the human blitzer Abrams. If that matters.
It doesn't matter. No, we don't care about the names of people who died.
All right. So back to talking points on Arkin's game, because we already know that who's been
Yeah, Akhenaten.
Huh.
oh my god, are you serious?
I just wanted to make sure.
You make my brain hurt, man.
Hey, I was
Correct.
just checking.
Get absolutely wrecked.
Akhenaten. That's his name. Yep.
All right. So we have protecting the ball and brawling.
Just anything about brawls could be what you talk
Yeah.
about. Like, there's a lot to do with brawls.
we're trying to keep this like this is a wrap up show, so we're not trying to like make it too long, I guess.
Yeah.
We're gonna be hitting these points and then like moving on to the next point, moving on like a little bit of discourse in between, but like this should be probably between 30 minutes and an hour, even if. Because we are going over a lot. Alright?
Okay.
Let me get my settings so I don't have.
And then for the orcs versus goblins, we're just gonna mention the decision of the commission and what that means going forward for the goblins.
What does that mean going forward for the goblins?
As far as we know at current moment, bombardiers are not legal to use in competition.
So what exactly was happening? And I think that needs to be addressed because
Okay, so what was happening was the bombardier, whenever it threw a bomb, would lock up the game, causing weird reversions and graphical glitches that was, number one, negatively affecting not only pace of play but quality of play. The timer would freeze and then unfreeze, and there could be a minute or two missing from it because of having to wait. And there was issues with input lag and things not popping up. So ultimately, it was Nemo and I deemed it more or less a game-breaking issue with the bombardier,
Okay.
which led to us bringing Strom in and talking about a reasonable
Solution.
solution. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so we're going to start off with the standings of the league thus far.
Yep.
Oh, we should also have an intro.
How do you plan on doing that?
I don't know. That was a suggestion. I'm waiting for ideas.
I mean, I was gonna use kind of like the intro we used for the first week. I was basically gonna be like, welcome everyone to the NCBBL inaugural season week 1 recap show. I am your host Asylum, and with me are my colleagues Hatter, Strom, and Dorn. You guys would say like you're reading or whatever, and I'll say, okay, we're hopping straight into the standings of the league, and then we'll go from there.
All right, so just may as well put the standings in the intro. I think that's the best way of doing it.
Well, the standings I think would actually come up after. To be honest, the standings should come up after we've capped up the
the games.
The games, because
okay, yeah. So it'll go in before the upcoming matchups.
Okay. That sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, that works. There's a leaderboard. Okay. Yep.
All
right, so
also, if you want to talk about the
what?
If you want to talk about the Open League, we can mention that there's been no kills. There's been no kills. We can make jabs that the Valiant Victors haven't won a single thing. We can talk about a halfling victory and how the Skaven are dominating the board in every aspect except for most games played, which the Valiant Victors hold.
Right.
And Skilfer and I hold everything that's kind of like negative, so like best punching bag.
When it comes to the Open, I will basically defer you guys. We'll do that. That will be a much more free form conversation, much like the Open is free form compared to the structured league.
Right.
So that way you can have a little more fun with what you guys want to bring up, what you guys want to talk about, stuff like that.
All right, give me 1 second. I got to do something.
No, we don't need to.
Because like the Hall of Fame, I'm looking through this, and
All right. And what
Schmoop
is this?
is top 3 in like everything.
The thing
except
is,
for best punching bag.
ultimately, I don't think like the leaderboard in that sense is gonna be like
Not worth it yet.
Not worth it just because it's the first week. There's a lot of variance over the court. Like I think after I would say like after the midway point of the league, we might talk about like who we might be seeing as like an MVP candidate kind of thing, but like nothing nothing until that point.
Okay. Why can't I find it?
All right.
Cool. All right.
Is Catter back?
Yeah, Catter's back. Give me 1 second here. I'm starting my broadcast, as a
And I
backup.
am starting mine. So my intro is going to be welcome everyone to the NCBBL inaugural season week 1 recap show. My name is Asylum. With me are my colleagues Mad Catter, Strom, and Dorn. And we will hop right into the talking points for the week, starting with the Kislev versus High Elves game. And then that'll be kind of like the first prompt for you guys. Sound good?
All right.
What?
Right.
All right, starting my broadcast now. There we go.
All right. I just need to change the name of mine. All right, going live in going live in 3, 2,
Oh, there's a bullshit one.
1. Welcome everyone to the NCBBL inaugural season week 1 recap show. My name is Asylum. I'm your host, and with me today are my colleagues Mad Catter, Strom, and Dorn. How are you all?
All right, pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah, I'm kind of tired, but let's get this going.
All right. Well, hopping right into the league, the first game that we had this week was the Kislev versus the High Elves. The Kislev won that game 2-0, and it was a fairly eventful game. What can you guys tell me about it?
Well, as the coach of the Kislev team, I can tell you that it was not it was not a walk in the park to get that 2-0 victory. It was a pretty hot day out. My Kislev, coming from the cold north, were not used to it, especially the bear. That bear passed out from the sun a number of times. It was a good game. The elves they fought well.
So you bring up weather being an issue. Uh, do you think that is an isolated incident, or do you think weather will be an issue going forward?
Weather is always an issue. It could be raining, could be snowing, could be hot as hell. Yeah, Mother Nature likes to play Blood Bowl with the rest of us.
Now, when you have players out, positioning becomes a big issue for all teams, obviously. What can you all tell me about the positioning of that game?
Oh, starting out, before any character or players were actually out of that, the big thing that I noticed was Skilfer's initial positioning. He went with a very wide setup, which ultimately, with elves, you need a lot of screening, and he did not, kicking off the ball, he did not set up that for defense. I think that allowed Strom to really push forward once he had his once that bear got that ball. So that's the key thing that I saw was the early on defensive positioning, and then from there on just battling it out when they started losing players, to injuries and heat stroke. You just have to, you gotta, they had to shuffle things around and make best of what bad situations they had.
So,
Yeah,
with that being,
I also agree that Skilfer's defense was it was definitely a little suboptimal. It definitely let me make holes easier than I would have expected.
with that being said, the Kislev did score about midway through, maybe a little half past midway through the first half. Was positioning really a factor in that? Do you think it made it a little bit easier, left the door open for an early score, which might have changed the tone of the game going forward?
Um, Generally against elves, early scoring they're not too put off by. They have the agility and the speed to run the ball up real far, real quick. Um, but the positioning, I think, was what allowed me to stop them from capitalizing on their ability to really run the ball up real far, real quick, and reduce their passing game.
Interesting. Now, Katter, you alluded to the bear having the ball for the Kislev. It is not often that you see a big guy running with the ball. Uh, do you think that might be a strategy going forward, or what are your thoughts on big guys with the ball?
General rule of thumb on the big guys with the ball is do not give the big guys the ball. But if you do, and you can get them to score. Uh, the the uh, the Bears are probably one of the better ones if he actually can handle the ball to to do, because not only can he tie up the players, but he just can blitz and brutalize his way up the line if done right. But at the same time, you're losing that blocker, that key blocker that you need, that. So it's kind of a 50-50 in my mind, but generally do not give the big guys the ball, because he can be utilized in much better positioning,
And
especially the bear, because
I wholeheartedly agree with that. I would not have given the Bear the ball if it weren't the first game in the league and it wasn't a touchback. I did want to get that Bear some star player points to get him a level up. Give him the necessary skills earlier on, rather than relying on a lucky MVP nomination or just maiming people. But yeah, it was a gamble and it didn't pay off, but it didn't hurt too bad.
And I gotta say, working or not makes me kind of jealous. I got, my team. We got three big dudes, and none of them can handle a ball if their life depended on it. So,
Or
hey,
unlife.
if yeah, yeah, or lack thereof of living.
So, a big topic that was thrown around is ball handling, and that actually leads us to our next game in the slate, Chaos versus Lizardmen. Lizardmen taking that game 1-0. Catter, you are the coach of the Lizardmen. What can you tell us about the importance of ball handling in that game?
always handle your balls. I mean, I jest, I
I always
jest.
do.
No, the importance of ball handling. It. I'm
And
at a loss here
it cannot
because
be
there you go.
understated how difficult other players can make you picking the ball up become. And even when you would normally think that you have a really good shot, or you've even picked up the ball in worse odds, sometimes an enemy player can really just make it hell to pick up that ball. which is what happened in that game, where in the second half, the Lizardmen and the Chaos, they spent a long time trying to get that ball up off the ground, only to have interference from the opposing team.
A good half of that half was trying to pick up the ball, and that was so frustrating for both coaches. But the big takeaway from that is you got to get in the right position to actually pick up the ball. You know, if you're trying to pick up the ball and you have two, you know, the more people you have around that ball of the opposing team, the lower your pickup percentage is, and the more likely you are to fumble the ball. And we used up our rerolls pretty quickly in that second half, trying to control that ball, and it was not happening.
Now, and you all make very good points. You know, if you have trouble picking up the ball, you start losing your turns. Lost turns equals a shorter game, and that affects your game plan. From what you all saw from that game, do you think the game plans were there for each side, or do you think that there might have been a little bit of panic because of such a shortened game due to all the fumbles?
Well, I don't know. I can't, you know, claim to be inside of the coaches' heads there, but from when I was watching the game, it seemed like that Katter had a good, solid plan going throughout the game, and he pretty much stuck to that plan. But it looked like Galen didn't have a solid plan. He was wavering a bit and couldn't really decide on what to do when. And it didn't seem like he had a plan until it was too late.
But once it was too late, he started bashing those skinks and then knocking those skinks out, and that you know it was already too late score wise, but it prevented me from doing an easy one to two touchdown score. Coupled with the ball handling, you know, the fumbles that we were talking about earlier, it made that second half kind of a dragging out, you know.
Yeah, if he had focused those skinks down from the beginning, then it would have been a much different game for him.
Well, and on top of that, it would also have to do with, say, positioning and marking opponents, because if the less people on that line of scrimmage there in the first half at the beginning, marking as many of those skinks as it got around could have prevented that touchdown from the first half.
Well, it's hard to mark skinks. They have dodge and stunty. They pretty much have the run of the place whenever they want. So it's hard to stop them.
You can still make it a little bit more difficult for them to go through.
Hard does not mean you should give up on it.
Right. Positioning wise, you know, Galen left the left flank, or I guess it would have been my left flank. He left it pretty wide open on that first half, which allowed me to get a Saurus behind his line. And from there, he forgot to mark that Saurus. He had it right on the. He could have potentially surfed the Saurus, but instead he left the Saurus standing there on the sideline, ready to pick up the take out his ball carrier, pretty much. And from there, that ultimately led to me scoring in the first half.
It can never be underestimated how important it is to set up a surf and go and follow through it. Even if it may not be directly helpful to getting your ball across the pitch, it can really save your butt in the later half of the game.
And a good point was brought up, marking players. If you could elaborate a little more on the importance of marking players, it seems like that was a big item of contention in that game.
Yeah. So the basics behind marking players is to just stand one of your guys next to one of your opponent's guys. and that has the benefit of disallowing and making it harder for them to move away. Because if they spend time knocking your dude over that's marking them, then they can't move. And if they try and move without knocking your dude over, then it's possible that they can get tripped, and then that'll give your team the advantage.
Dorn, you had something to say?
Yeah, and more on top of that, it's the aspect of it in keeping up with the marking. It might seem almost mediocre at times, but you know, certain situations, it's important. You got to keep up with it. If you lose, your head, if you forget who's marked, who's where, anything in that situation, you can easily lose track of everything and unintentionally just throw away whatever a glimpse of a victory you might have had.
So, with that said, uh, we're actually going to lead into the next game on our slate. The Humans, led by Shmoopy, versus the Khemri, led by you, Dorn.
Yes.
And that was a 2-0 victory for the Humans, which some would call maybe a small upset. What can you tell us about that game? From what I hear, it was the bloodiest game of the week. Lots of fists thrown, and basically 16 turns of punching.
It was the game of the week.
Yes, it was very, very brutal. It was very, very hot that day. There were a couple players, only a couple, who had to sit out in that second half. However, Khemri, their bones, they're not going to get overheat too bad. Humans, a lot more resilient than I gave them credit for, in every aspect. Especially with that ogre wearing that #1, the butt destroyer. He did just that. That entire game came down to getting the ball and then ending in just a giant brawl of basically, at a minimum, a 7 versus 7 just fight over the ball. And it constantly boiled down to who had the better positioning, I would say, but it was bad. It was very bloody, very brutal. A lot of my players suffered injuries. However, they regenerate. Their skeletons, their bones get fixed. They put themselves back together. But those humans, they're faster and tankier and beefier and can hit a lot harder than apparently my giant Tomb Guardians can. In every aspect except until, I killed one of those puny little humans.
So, when you have a big brawl like that, how do you protect the ball? How do you keep teams from picking up and kind of sneaking out the back door of a brawl and just getting into open field?
Well, I was unable to do that, so I don't think I'm fit to answer that.
Generally, it's knowing who to punch when. The order of punching is very important in a big muck like that. When a big ruckus happens, you gotta take out a few key people, and you just gotta get lucky.
Katter, do you have anything to say about about protecting the ball in a big scrum?
Yeah, like what Strom just said, is knowing who can do what can really affect who can pick up the ball. A lot of times you can position somebody to block into another player, to block into another player, to block into another player, which can lead to a blitz to clear up the field, so you can pick up the ball with another player and then get away from that get away from that dog pile pretty much. And it's tough getting out of that. I mean, if you watch that match, a lot of times they were all centered around that ball, and battling out of that situation was not an easy thing for either team. So there is that.
So, after a shocking Humans 2-0 victory, uh, a couple days later, sources tell me that there were issues going on with the Orcs versus Goblins matchup. Asylum student being the coach of the Orcs and Captain Nemo being coach of the Goblins. It seemed that the Bombardier was blowing up more than just people on the field. Uh, Sources from the league tell me that there was a bit of an issue with the graphics and gameplay on the field. The commission has put down a ruling to give the Orcs a 2-1 victory, and that from this point forward, Bombardiers are not to be played on the field. We will keep you updated with anything that happens with that. So a fairly uneventful. There wasn't necessarily game played. There were multiple attempts at it. It just didn't work out. Orcs over Goblins 2-1, which leads us to the standings of the league. After week 1, we have 4 undefeated teams. The Kislev Circus, coached by Strom. The Humans, coached by Shmupi. The Orcs, coached by Asylum Student. And the Lizardmen, coached by Mad Catter. From those 4 teams, who do you think might be the strongest looking one at this time?
That's a good question. I think, in my opinion, looking at the teams, at the moment, the my team, the Kids of Circus, has the highest team value, but I'm actually thinking that if played right, the Lizardmen might have an advantage over the other teams at the moment. They don't have any serious injuries, and their players are pretty hardy.
Right. I think even with that blitzer down on Schmoopy's team, I think if he plays his cards right, he can actually do some serious damage later in the not necessarily this next game. Well, actually, in this next game, he can do some damage, which would set him up to being one of the top teams in the league, just by how I saw him. Saw that team being coached.
I would have to say, experiencing all of that firsthand, saying regardless that the Shmoopy is now down a player, he definitely has control with his big guy already being leveled up and being awarded guard. That will make any fight against his team a hindrance in the future. And I think going forward, he will be potentially the biggest threat.
So Humans and Coach Shmoopy seeming to be the upstart team early this season. Now on the bottom half of the league ladder, we have the Goblins, coached by Nemo, Chaos, coached by Galen, High Elves, coached by Skilfer, and Kemri, currently bottom of the board, coached by Udorn. Which team do you think has the biggest likelihood of turning it around this season? In this early season?
Ooh, I would have to tie it between the Kemri team and Skilfer's High Elves.
I think
I
I would
agree with
agree with that. I think Skillfur's High Elves have a slight advantage over your Khemri, Dorn, depending on how many risks Skillfur is willing to take. And if experience has taught me anything, Skillfur is willing to take an absurd amount of risks.
Right, but just purely for the short term,
Yeah,
he
well,
is
that was
down
not
on
a
players.
positive I was talking about.
Ah.
Yeah. His next game is actually against my Lizardmen, so it's going to be an interesting fight on that. I think he's down a player as well. Uh, definitely down a player. So he'll have that reserve player, that free reserve player to replace it. But yeah,
Yeah, but they're journeymen for a reason.
So, with that being said, let's get into our next week's matchups. Uh, for week 2 of the league, we'll start and we'll let you, the panel, give your thoughts and predictions for the games. And the first one we have on the slate is Lawful Good, the chaotic team coached by Galen versus Clan Thrust Plunder, coached by Asylum Student. What do you think is going to go on with that match?
I'll start this with since I played Galen that last match. Um, the key to this game is going to be who keeps a level head. And I think if Galen can keep himself a level head and have a plan going in, it's going to be a bashy game, and in no way around it. Somebody's either going to get seriously injured or seriously is going to die, if not multiple people. Multiple players. The key to that game is definitely who keeps a level head and keeps that game plan in play. And I have a feeling that Clan Thrust Plunder is going to come out of this one with a 1-0 victory.
Yeah, I have to agree with Catter. Whoever keeps a level head, because it's going to be a bashy game. That entire game is going to be a 16-turn just muck. It's going to be elbows and fists and claws. Galen certainly has the advantage on strength over Clan Thrust Plunder. However, Clan Thrust Plunder has a blitzer or two, and putting that block skill in key places can really turn the tide. But make no mistake, that's going to be a punching game.
Yes. Recently coming out of a great brawl, I'm either gonna say it's gonna come out being a 1-1 or it's gonna come out 0-2 in favor of Clan Thrust Plunder.
Why didn't you?
Which, in any case, all the power to whoever. I agree with it's gonna be bashy and who can keep a level head, but when it gets super bashy, it's more of certain situations. It boils down to who can just grab the ball and peel faster. And that's pretty 50-50 either way.
So, seems like the consensus is it's going to be it's going to be a violent game that will either end up in a draw or a very small margin of victory for Clan Thrust Plunder. Our next game on the docket is the High Elves, Bastard of Uruk, coached by Skulfer, versus the cold-blooded root beer of Catter and his lizard men. Catter, since you are coaching this game, we will skip you for your prediction, and we'll start with Strom.
This is going to be an interesting game. If Skilfer can dance around the Saurus and bash up the Skinks, I think he has the game in the bag. Guaranteed victory. If Catter can force him to deal with those Saurus, then it can be a real tight game. But if Skilfer can get around those Saurus and the Kroxigor, then I think that Skilfer might have this game in the bag.
I gotta say that, especially since Skilfer's team is down a player and the way he plays, I think it's definitely going to be in favor of cold-blooded root beer, and it's either the Lizardmen team will be winning by a large margin, or it'll be a very slim one, and that boils down to if Skilfer can make up for his lack of a player.
Hey, he's only lost a lineman. He's not really. He didn't lose a positional. So.
Well, but the way he plays, he uses about every unit the same except for throwers. They have throwers.
Yeah, and that's going to be another advantage on his side, the ability to throw the ball.
Definitely. I'm going to comment on here, even though you guys are skipping me. I think that, I'm not going to give a prognostication, but on these two coaches, myself and Skilfer, we are pretty much the two coaches that I've seen so far that take are known for taking extreme risks. So that's going to play a factor as well. So I just want to throw that out there.
Hoping for a lot of turnovers.
I must say this matchup is a very one way or the other kind of game. If the High Elves can make the space and air it out, I can see them running all over these Lizardmen. But Catter's a savvy coach, and he will do his best to turn it into a draggy, gut it out 1-0, 2-1 kind of victory. Ultimately, I think it comes down to who does take the most risks, and I think the High Elves will steal this game late in the second half. I'll say 2-1 going towards the Bastards of Uruk. Now, our next game, I should say, is Basic Team, the startup human squad, coached by Shmupi, versus the stupid stunties, coached by Captain Nemo.
This one's going to be a fun game. I'm looking forward to this one because I think the human's bane will be the stuntiness of the goblins. Goblins have two big guys to deal with.
Well, Nemo
that can go in their, go against them. But
I think it's more of a hindrance in this because Shmubi has already shown that versus multiple big guys he has no problem. Right in his first game, he versus the Camry with 3 big guys who don't even have. Their only negative is their slow movement, not that they're unreliable. And that turned into a what was it, a 2-0 victory?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the big guys are going to be an issue for Shmoopy, but I do agree that the combination of dodge and stunty and the secret weapons especially, that's going to play a huge role.
I would agree everything with what you said, Strom, and especially with how much I know about how Nemo works and how he thinks about things. The only way I think the stupid stunties are going to tie it or win is if he can successfully use the secret weapons to take out specific players. So, for instance, if he can manage to stick a chainsaw in the ogre's gut, then that might be the only way he can get something done. Or if he can make that pogo jump all the way through the end zone. I think those are the only ways he's going to be able to get to win.
Well, again, the stunties have the if he plays it right, they have the advantage of being able to pretty much dodge around his line with the ball in hand and run it into the end zone fairly easily. If they're even if they're marked, they can get out of those situations.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm actually
absolutely.
I'm going to give this one. Again, this is going to be a 1-0 victory for the stupid stunties.
I agree. I think it's going to be a 1-0 victory for either one. Whichever one wins, it's going to be 1-0.
Um, I'm gonna say the Stunties on paper are just the more dangerous team, I think, in terms of scoring and getting ahead. But that Stunty, all it takes is one hit, and then you get an injury, you get uh, a KO or death, and then the numbers game. I think the humans can take better advantage of. Um, I think it comes down to can in the first three turns the humans get a key block, a key injury, a key kill to turn the tide of the game and make this the team fear combat even more so than they already do. Uh, I think the upstart human teams takes another victory, 1-0, turns it into a brawly match, gets a couple kills, gets a couple injuries, and really establishes themselves on top of the leaderboard.
I agree with that, but the other possibility is Shimoopy could beat Nemo at the own game of running around. I mean, that's how Shmoop won. Against me, he was brawly and managed to run that ball, as fast as he could and dodge as many issues as possible.
Yeah.
It's gonna be probably the most eventful match of the week.
It's
But
definitely Shmoopy has definitely come out a relative newcomer to the game, and not everyone, no one had any expectation. He came out swinging, and figuratively.
Literally.
And that
yeah,
brings us
that he did.
to our final game of the week, the 2B8s, coached by
Toomey aches. Say it correctly.
2B8s.
Toomey aches.
Still a
Sigh.
good pun.
We are the Toomey aches.
Coached by uh, Dorn versus the Cirque du Glace Circus. The two of you are involved in this game, so we will skip your uh, your predictions.
This is going to be the game that oh, the words I have for this game. The Kislev and their ability to jump the line, jump cages, get. It's just I haven't played them much, but what I've seen of them, they can be probably one of the most dangerous teams out there. And Strom has the rerolls to make them a threat. Um, Toomey Aches, nobody leveled up last game. I
Yeah, they
don't
did.
think. Oh, you had some levels up. All right.
Akhenaten leveled up and obtained Mighty Blue.
I
Okay.
have no level ups on my team.
What's that?
I have no level ups on my team. Everyone's still
I
level
didn't
1.
think so. So that that mighty blow can help out, but ultimately in the end, I think the speed and the agility of the Kislev are just going to tear apart the undead, the Khemri there. No ifs or ifs, ands, or buts. I think that's how it's going to happen. Um, it's going to be probably I'm predicting a 3-1 victory.
3-1. Wow.
Yeah.
I
Figure one for
I
who?
don't know
Sorry.
I don't know what to expect from it, but
What,
Kislev
it was
have
3-1.
less armor than humans. That's all I'm gonna say.
Wait, it was 3-1 for Kislev?
For Kislev, yeah.
Um, Knowing these two coaches have battled it out before, and it has been uh, there is some familiarity between the two. Uh, Again, this feels like the Lizardmen versus High Elf kind of thing, where if it becomes a drag out brawl, uh, the the Khemri have the upper hand, and if it becomes kind of uh, helps the Khemri team right now, I think once you see what Leap can do, you prepare a little bit better for it, and I think Dorn and his Khemri team will pull it out 2-1. And is there something you want to say?
Yeah, I knowing my opponent and the team, I'm not sure who's gonna win, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be someone is not going to score. I think it's gonna be a 1-0 or 2-0 game.
And we will. It won't be long before we find out all of our predictions. And that leads us to the next part of the wrap up. Death count for the week. We had an impressive 3 deaths this week. 2 of them.
No, we had an
this is not
impressive
including the
5 deaths this week.
well,
Yes.
no, we had 3 confirmed deaths, and then 2 very knowledgeable apothecaries were able to save some lives.
No.
Putting
Rowan
those
regenerate.
fine back
a regeneration and a regeneration and a apothecary saved
Oh, it's
some
one.
lives.
All right. My sources were
So-
incorrect.
That's okay. You can just
Mhm.
you can burn them when they come back to you.
Yes,
I
I sat there and watched my skeleton, mend its own bones back together.
I'm sure the sounds were sickening.
Oh, very much.
Gloriously so.
Two
think the-
two of those deaths happened in my match, and that was pretty gruesome, you know. Akhenaten totally just destroyed that man, and in retaliation, the Blitzer,
Which is a big loss to Schmoopy's team.
It was. However, retaliation trying to take out the skeleton osteosarcoma, otherwise known as bone cancer. He still managed to get back up. He will suffer one more match at least.
Didn't he have like a niggling injury or something like that?
No. I had 6 injuries that match, and the only one who did not regenerate from their injury has a movement allowance.
I think it was Lil Peep, was it not?
No, I think it was your mom.
Oh, I think it is your mom. Yes.
I think. Oh, yeah, it was your mom.
Sigh.
As we can tell, colorful names in this league.
Yes,
But
yes.
that is it for the.
Well, I mean, we didn't talk about the great Tigu and his just decimation. I mean, if you watch that animation when he killed Galen's Beastman there,
I'm pretty
it was-
sure Great Tegu actually took a bite out of that Beastman on its way out of the pitch.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it was bloody. So, and in that match there's also the one of my sources also killed another one of his beastmen, but that's where that apothecary save came in. We had no like long-term injuries on either side, so besides that death. So
The longest term of injury.
Well, it's actually the shortest term of injury. It's just the most final one.
Are there any other deaths to be accounted for?
go ahead and talk about your game there, Strong.
So, in my game, on the way that my one of the my catchers, I believe, was on his way to his second touchdown. The a hero elf, and by hero I mean dumbass, went to go and do a last ditch effort to put that catcher down, and you know what? To his credit, he did his elf thing. He made it through multiple dodge zones, got right up to my catcher, and then fell and broke his neck.
It was an awesome sight.
It was tragic for the elves.
Well,
And
as we know,
As a coach, I almost died laughing at that point. I'm just throwing that out there.
I did die laughing. It was very funny.
But
If
then you
only
use
elves
your
could
apothecary.
regenerate.
as we know, sometimes the most devastating thing on the pitch is the field itself. And if that wraps up the death report for week 1, that in turn wraps up the week 1 recap of the NCBBL inaugural season. Thank you so much, you guys. I will hand it over to Catter to speak about the Open League, which, to what I know, has been very eventful. This is Asylum, thanking Catter, Strom, and Dorn for their time. And I will see you all next week.
All right. Thank you, Asylum. I'll kick off the Nova Core Open with the pretty much. We have a lot of teams that haven't played yet, but the format of it is a ladder style format, and has there's a lot of interesting things that have happened throughout the week. We have we have a Skaven team, coached by myself, which has done a pretty good job of knocking the two opponents that it played out. The first one being Skilfer's Dark Elves. I put a hurting on him on that, and the who did I play second? Did I play you second there, Dorn?
I believe it was.
It definitely was, and that was a tragic game. It was, as all your valiant victors have suffered throughout this open season.
My valiant victors are the exact opposite. They
Quite ironically
are...
named is what they are.
Yes, I'll tell you what. They've definitely been putting in their work. They've been putting in their effort.
They've been valiant for sure.
They have been valiant. My two blitzers already leveled up, acquired some nice skills, and definitely going to be putting out a nice beating, hopefully, but suffered some very tragic and very pitiful losses.
Yeah, it has been a thing. I mean, what was their second game or the third game? Was against the Pain Train.
The third game was against the Pain Train.
Yeah, and the Pain Train came out of the Pain Station full speed. Was the first block was a knockout, and then pretty much didn't get any better from there. But yeah, that was an interesting game. I still think to this day, the only team to have yet to prevent the Valiant Victors from scoring at all.
That sounds right.
That is correct. It was a 1-0 win on that.
Yes, that would be the only game the Valiant Victors did not get a score.
Yeah. I think the MVP in that game is clearly Freddie Starr.
Stupid Freddy Star.
Stupid princess. What was it? Prince
No,
Sally.
Prince
Sally.
Sally.
Fucking loser.
Indeed, Prince Sally was.
Just tripped. Spent that entire time on his back.
Yeah, a total of 12 armor breaks in that game, Strom, versus his 6 armor breaks. So I mean that's pretty pretty heavy on that stat. And you control the ball on that match, 62% of the game. So
Listen, the pain train don't mess around. I've
now
forgotten.
was that your first match, Strom? What was your second match?
No, my first match was a quick match against Galen's Troll in the Dungeon team. While I was waiting for my inaugural season game to start. And that one was a concession with...
that was a concession?
Yeah, I don't remember which... I think it was Tut Tut. Yeah.
It was Tut Tut, yes.
Yeah, that ended in a concession.
Okay. I know Skilfer played with his Lost Ballerinas, I think the Bellinarius or Bellinaris. He played a total of 3 games, lost 2 of them. One to myself. That was a pretty handed victory. I think that was. Let me check that real quick, but I think that was like.
It was gruesome.
It was very gruesome.
You showed him zero mercy.
No. Well, I've tried to show him mercy throughout that match, and he just kept on leaving it open. Yeah, that was a 5-0 win for the Flaming Hams and Flapjacks.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, and it was pretty bad. I really felt for him, but it was also his first competitive match, not against the computer. So I mean, you can throw that into the mix there. He came back and made up for it on that win of his.
Yeah, against the Valiant Victors.
Very aptly named.
Yeah, and then he lost to Troll in the Dungeon.
Yeah, he lost a 0-1 to Troll in the Dungeon. So, and that seemed to be a better game for him. I think he got a better feel for coaching, and it prepped him pretty much for the league play against Strom. I think those two last 2 games. His loss and his win. But the game of the week, man, I'm telling you, nobody expected this outcome. Freakishly Tall, the Halflings versus Arkans or Dorn's
Valiant Victors.
Valiant Victors, and what a game that was.
I don't want to
Let me
talk
tell
about
you,
it.
I know you don't want to talk about it, but I went into that game expecting to lose because the Halflings are bar none the worst team. They're designed to be the worst team in Blood Bowl, and that game, I don't know if it was more mistakes or I just had some really good luck, but I came tied the game up the beginning of the first half or the second half.
Yeah, I did.
And the breakdown the breakdown of the Bretonian team, the late second half allowed me to do a 1-turn touchdown, and all he had to do to prevent it is leave his guy down the field by my by my downed halfling, and that allowed me to break out of a cage, rush up the line, hand the ball off, and make a stunning pass that was saved by a reroll to win the game. Um, it'll probably be their only win, but it was a hard fought game, like early on. So
It was it definitely and I wasn't watching the game as it happened. I thought it was a foregone conclusion that the Valiant Victors would easily win that game. But oh man, when I heard that meltdown right at the end there, that brought such joy to my soul.
Didn't bring any to mind, I can tell you that.
no, and I apologize for that. I really didn't mean it to end that way.
Oh man, no need to apologize. Like, you did that. I will say I am surprised that there has been no blood spilt in the Open League yet.
Exactly. Have there even been any long-term injuries? I don't think so.
I don't think so. The pain train came out of the station full throttle, but they didn't keep their steam. They slowed down a bit. There was definitely a couple of KOs in that match, but yeah, I'm still looking to see if the pain train can really bring. So far, they haven't gone full no breaks yet.
I think the only serious injury was my blitzer Lancelot had to miss the game against the pain train, so it was a 11 versus a 10.
And that is true. I think that's the only injury that was sustained. Thinking back on it, so I mean, the Open is has been pretty interesting so far. We haven't had all the teams playing yet. I think we have a total of 11 teams in the Open so far. Some only about 5 coaches, but this it's going to be a good testing ground and open it up for other coaches to come into the next season of the NCCBL.
Yep, and there's still a lot of pretty low team value teams, so the Open is still quite open to join.
Right, it's anybody's game on that. So if you are looking into getting Blood Bowl, this is. And you want to join us? This is the point to join is the Nova Core Open. I can't stress that enough. It's still anybody's game. Anybody can come in, learn the game, and just have fun.
Yep. And definitely pick up Blood Bowl while it's still on sale until January 16th.
Basic game is half price? $7.
It's less than half. It's 70% off, I think.
Yes. You can still be competitive with those the opening teams. So,
as proved by what's on the top of the leaderboard: Orc team, Skaven team, Halfling team.
Halfling's fine.
No, you have to. They're not in the game.
Oh, that's true.
However, you could also take Schmoopy's human victories,
Yeah. Exactly. So, with that, I think we're going to wrap this up. If you're watching this, thank you for watching.
If you're listening, thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you. You guys have a good night.
And Blood Bowl.
All right, Strom, ready for this? Ready for this matchup, man?
I don't think so. Give me 1 second. Let me figure out, because we were supposed to go and go grocery shopping after we were done, except we started an hour later than we expected to.
Mm-hmm.
So let me find out. What time is it?
A little after 5.
5:30. When does Sam's Club close?
I don't know.
I think they close early.
Ow, you piece of shit.
You know, it's almost like you have smartphones. You can Google this.
Who knew?
I live a life without technology. Closes at 6.
I doubt that.
Fuck. We're not gonna make it at home.
Absolutely not. Do I just order a pizza and do it tomorrow when we get out of work?
Yeah. Damn it, a helm.
All right.
Okay.
Looks like I gotta
so-
go prep the Toomey aches.
Yeah. I'm really bummed that I don't have any level ups in my first game. That Mighty Blow big guy is gonna be a real pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, he is.
I'm either gonna try and just be away from him, or I gotta take him out.
Ooh-wee. I'm gonna go get something to drink. I'll be right back.
Alright, so short order from Tina's.
Yeah, Bruce isn't doing that.
Do you want pizza or do you want, like, food?
Why?
Well, I'm just wondering what you want. Like, we could easily just get a half pepperoni, half plain pie. Or we can, if you want something else. Like, because I can always get a sandwich.
I think I want sandwich.
Okay.
You might have a menu online.
I'm gonna check.
If you do, someone put it there. They don't have website, I think. Ow, that's a problem.
Are you still broadcasting, Strom?
I think so. Yeah, I still am.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, on the broadcast.